Okay, welcome to another episode of Warriors Whiteboard Wednesday. Dai-Shihan Miller here from Warrior Concepts here in East Central Pennsylvania. So if you're in the Sunbury, Selinsgrove, Harrisburg, Williamsport area, come on in and train with us. That'd be awesome. And if you're not, well, we've got seminars on a regular basis. Come in and train with us anyway. So, or take one of the virtual programs. Anyway, all right. So again, for those of you who are new to this, please remember, or just as a reminder to everybody else, that Warriors Whiteboard Wednesday is a strategy and tactics training session, right? So no dancing monkey. I may do something just kind of to illustrate, maybe a come-on or something like that. But this is not dancing monkey demonstrates technique. It's not a replacement for the other YouTube videos that people are used to just scrolling on and entertaining themselves instead of working or whatever. Okay, so we're diving behind the scenes as to why these things work, why certain strategies, why tactics, why and how ninja or true warriors think differently, right? The conventional fighter who's trying to win the girl in a fight on Saturday night at the bar, or the high school fight, or those kind of things, right? So anyway, let me just adjust this a little bit more so that you'll be able to see the whiteboard a little bit better. Probably should have had all that set up before I hit go live. Anyway, all right. So this week we're taking a look at this whole theme, right, which began this past Monday during our weekly Kuden Radio. It's a podcast that I do Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern. So the theme for this week is being willing to get hit. Actually, I think we started off with being willing to get cut. This one we'll keep it in the hit range kind of thing because this training also acts as a launching point for our Friday virtual training, our Friday masterclass. We'll talk about that later as we move along. Just make sure that I've got my notes up. We're ready to go. All right, got a lot for you. All right, so big part of this is going to be taking a look at controlling fear and ego in a self-defense situation. Okay, and the big point where we're going here is how to turn the willingness to get hit, to get cut, or to get kicked, or whatever, into actually trapping your assailant with his own attack. Okay, so let's do what I normally do, and we'll start with a kind of a central problem, right? And that is that fear of being hit creates tension and ego-driven urges, okay, to dominate, to get in there quickly, right, causing premature movement. Those kind of things causes wasted energy, and it causes missed opportunities, right? So we're going to dive into a bunch of these things as we go along, okay? So the big problem here is that many martial artists train under the illusion, right, that skill equals invincibility, or at least they hope and pray that it does, right? But in truth, fear of getting hit often drives poor tactics, okay? It drives flinch-based responses and an inability to remain calm under pressure, okay? So what we'll start with here is this condition, right? So I'm going to talk about fear. I'm going to talk about some ego-based things. We'll just move along here. So we'll start with some causes, give you some quotes and whatnot, right? Three specific things that we're going to be able to cover during the time that we have here, and then some tactical benefits, right, of this other way of doing things, okay? And this is not as simple as saying, I'm just not going to be afraid. Yeah, good luck with that, okay? A bunch of years ago, there was this very, very fashionable bumper sticker. I think they had it as magnets and all kinds of bullshit that was out there, right? That the initial bumper sticker was no fear, right? No fear. Sure enough, within a short amount of time, the follow-up to that was another bumper sticker that said fear this, right? So it's just this little contest back and forth. And anyway, so it's not as easy as turning it on, turning it off. That's why we have training, right? Training produces more than just ingrained skills, okay? So anyway, we'll take a look at some tactical benefits of doing it maybe a different way, right? So let's start with this condition. So a handy dandy marker here, okay? So we're going to take a look at this idea of fear of getting hit, and how it creates tells. It creates telegraphed reactions. Okay, and so there's a couple of them that again we'll talk about today. So the first one is pre-attack flinching. Right, so pre-attack flinching. All right, I'll give you an example of this. As a warm-up in class, often I will have the students just line up in a row or multiple rows, right? And then we'll grab seniors, specifically ones that are either decent at sword cutting or are working on it, so things get a little more, or a little less predictable, right, for the student. Okay, and so the student comes up and stands in Hiran no Kamae, right, also known as Shizen no Kamae to a lot of people. Stand in this posture, and the cutter cuts down. We tend to use either shinai or foam-covered PVC pipe and whatnot, so we can hit a little harder, right? And so their job is to go from this, or if they're brand new, we'll put them in this Hiran no Kamae, right? And then their job is just to shift out of the way, okay? But the fear of being hit will cause students, as soon as that sword comes up, they'll start flinching, telling the person with the sword which direction they're going. Not just that they're like ready to move, but they don't understand how that's a tell, right? And so if they don't get rid of that fairly early, if the person is an upper intermediate or an advanced level student and they do that, then the person with the sword will cut or come down just next to them, so that their movement causes them to have a head-on collision, right? So here's the thing. If we don't get this handled and we don't understand that the attacker is not going to do what we're used to in the dojo, they're not going to be as forgiving or ignorant as our training partner. And when I say ignorant, I mean they don't know any better, right? So they don't know what to look for and things like that. Then we're going to have a false sense of confidence, okay? Because the attacker on the street wants to hit you in the head. They want to punch you in the face. They want to kick you in the groin. They want to stab you in the gut, whatever, right? So if you move your gut or your head or your groin or whatever early, right, or you tell them which way you're going to go, right? We're not fighting morons. And if we are, lucky us, right? But we have to recognize that they're going to go for the target where it is, okay? I say this over and over and over again. So if you're a regular on this, or Kuden, or even one of my students, then you've heard this before. No one on this planet who wants to attack you or is in the process of attacking you is going to let you do your cool moves on them. I take that back. There's one, your training partner. Because at certain points in your training, that's his job. That's her job. Okay? But everybody else, okay, they're going to exploit every mistake that we make. So we have to be careful, okay? So we have to now, not only that we have to eliminate this, when we look at these causes, we can look at these as tells in and of themselves. And what that means is we can convince ourselves that we're not afraid, or we're just going to stand there or whatever. But if we're doing any of these things, then we're lying to ourselves. Because if we weren't afraid, or if we weren't, afraid of not winning, afraid of losing, afraid of getting it wrong, afraid of being laughed at, whatever, right? We wouldn't be doing this shit. It's just a natural by default. Okay, so this leads into this pre-attack flinching. What I'm talking about here is it's autonomic, right? It's just we don't mean to, but we can't help ourselves, okay? Because of this internal drive that's moving us, okay? But this next one is more conscious, okay? And this is premature movement. Right? So premature movement, right? That signals intention, okay? So this signals intention. Okay, what I mean by that is I've already predetermined which direction I'm going to go. So as soon as he even starts to shift, or as soon as the attack starts, or an ant farts in the corner or whatever, I just go in that direction. Okay. The problem with that is that one, not only did I tell, and he may miss, right? He might, right? If he's not paying attention or if he's just swinging wildly, he might miss, right? But if I have to predetermine my moves, one of two things is going on. Either I have a really, really, really awesome sense of ESP. Like I can tell the future. I can tell what this guy's going to do before he does it and all those kind of things. In which case, I don't know why the hell I would be training in martial arts for self-defense. If I know I'm going to be attacked at 4th and Main at 2 p.m. tomorrow, guess where I'm not going to be at 2 p.m. tomorrow, right? Or what ends up happening is because we predetermine it and then we get someplace and now he's going to follow us and we don't have the time to intellectually decide the next thing, then we end up defaulting back to this next thing, right? So we can win a battle, lose the war, whatever. But the other thing that happens here, right, as soon as we do a false start, right, is that we can never do that move again in the same context, right? We'd have to do it in a way where he can't see it happening, right? We'd have to be better, okay? We can never do it again because he's already seen it. Now he's on the lookout for it because you just showed your hand. Okay, right. So next thing that it can cause these telegraph reactions is hesitation during critical openings. Okay, hesitation during critical openings. Okay, so what that means is that either I am transitioning from a kamae to another, right, and I could be hyper vigilant, right? But I'm transitioning from one point to another, and I'm not sure what to do next. I'm paying attention to the 1, 2, but not where the space is, not where the line of the attack is. I just did, over the course of 2 classes with my inner circle people, I just did a couple of coaching calls on Tanto Jutsu, right? Knife fighting, knife defense, but from the intermediate level, right? Not from the basic level. So a lot of mindset kind of stuff in there, a lot of Kyujutsu Tenkan, right? And we didn't even get through all of them. I think I gave them over the course of 2 classes. We covered 7 of 10 principles that I wanted them to have. And what ends up happening between the basics and the intermediate is the student is still looking at where things are, and they're looking for anything, right? They don't know what he's going to do, but they either guess or they're just waiting for whatever to happen. Not a bad idea, but in the intermediate levels, heading toward advanced, we should understand what his lines of attack are and where he's going to be strong. Okay. One of the ideas with this naname, this angling that goes on in these different lineages, is that you're not just moving to an angle to open him up. You're moving to an angle that when he follows up physiologically, that strike or kick or cut or whatever loses its power because he's not built that way from that position in that moment that he has to move quickly, right? His initial attack was on his power line. It was very, very strong. As soon as I shift over and he tries to track that, right? Now, if I'm in range and I get tagged, well, then I get tagged, right? But I want to move to a spot that even if he tags me, he's not going to damage me, okay? In the intermediate and advanced levels, it's not about not getting hit. As a matter of fact, that's one of the things we're going to cover during this Friday class, where I'm going to show everybody how to get hit, be willing to take the hit. But when the hit lands, his brain's going to score a hit, right? Got him. But there's no damage. And now he's stuck. Okay? Talk about that a little bit more as we go along, right? So, but the other thing that this hesitation can do is we're so worried about being cut, we're so worried about being hit, that we miss opportunities that we could be taking advantage of when he leaves an opening, okay? Because I'm worried about me not getting damaged instead of paying attention to the opportunities that I have to shut this damn thing down as quickly as possible, okay? And the last one is that nervous energy creates tension, Okay, it reduces flow, it alters and reduces and changes balance, and it screws up timing. Okay, so what do we have here? So reduces, what did I say? Timing, balance. What's the other thing I had over there? Oh, flow. Yeah, flow, which in and of itself is a type of timing. Okay, so the idea here is that getting this right means that the attacker may not know exactly what you're going to do, but they sense you're about to do something. Okay, so there's this projection of intent. It could be physiological, it could be your eyes. A lot of people, just before they hit a target or just before they move in a certain direction, they'll look at the target or look in that direction, and then they'll move. Right? Tells come in all kinds of varieties. Right? We have to figure out what ours are, and so that's why it's important to work with a sympathetic training partner. Okay? I don't mean one that cries when you hit them. What I mean is they want to help you do well. They want to help you figure this stuff out. Okay. So in the beginning, they're going to ignore a lot of mistakes and whatnot. Their job is just to throw the punch and let you try to apply the technique to them without any resistance or anything like that, because you're both trying to figure it out. But as you move up, the partner starts, that's when they start introducing some resistance, or they'll let you know that, nope, there's that tell. Nope. Or as soon as you have a tell that would create suspicion, they reposition and they move so that you can't get at them any more than they can get at you, because it's still, right? They want you to do well. So if they don't help you identify mistakes, if everybody in the dojo was a part of, back in the day, we used to call it the Mutual Admiration Society. What we mean by that is everybody's just like, oh, good technique, dude, and patting each other in the back, and that was awesome. Meanwhile, everybody's overlooking, either because they don't want to make somebody feel bad, or because they don't know what the hell they're looking at either, right? So all kinds of mistakes are just flowing through, okay? I know, right? Just let karma run its course, and these people will figure things out, right? Because they didn't fix things. The problem with that is that down the line, right, many of these people have become teachers or training group leaders or whatever, and then they've passed shit on to other people who don't know. Okay, on the Tibetan wheel of life, that outer chain, that 12-fold chain of dependent origination, first two chains are really important to understand. Ignorance, which is not knowing any better, not stupidity, just not knowing any better. It's depicted as a picture of an old blind person doing this kind of thing, who has a rope tied around their waist that goes back, and a young blind person is holding on to it, right, like a leash. So it's the blind leading the blind, right? We've all heard that, right? But ignorance begets volition. Volition is just a fancy word that means action, thoughts, words, plans, actions, whatever. Okay. So if we don't know any better, whatever it is that we're producing from that is by default is going to be flawed. Okay. This is the problem with folks believing that they can learn anything, let alone learning something like ninjutsu from YouTube videos. Okay. I'm in the process of working up an article that might turn into a kuden or something like that, of all the things that you cannot get from YouTube videos. And one of them is correct translation of the techniques, which, if we understand how ninjutsu works, nothing in ninjutsu is ever what it looks like. Okay. If it is, he knows how to beat it. But that creates a problem for students. If you accept something at face value, then what are we missing? Because I see what it looks like. Looks fairly cut and dry. Okay, what am I missing? Because I have to go back to that original core principle. Nothing in ninjutsu is what it looks like. Everything is a smokescreen. Shit. Okay. All right. So again, if we're being led around, right? Well, I'll split these eventually, but right now, if we're being led by fear and we have these flinches and we have these preemptive movements and all that kind of stuff, right? And it could be very, very subtle things, right? Could just be like inner anxiety. We're trying to look tough. We're trying to put on a good show. So he may not know what we're going to do, but he can sense that you're about to do something, okay? Note one more example for that. It just came to mind. You ever watch one of these Steven Seagal or Chuck Norris movies? I watch them myself, okay? But if you ever watched one where the guy's in front of him and he's got the gun, and he's just ready to go, and there's Chuck or Steven Seagal or whatever, right? And of course, in the movies, it's for dramatic effect, okay? But they'll kind of settle in, or give that little glint with their eye or whatever, right? And then, because you know it's coming, right? They're going to do their cool move, disarm this guy, and you're going to write a meme about it, right? The problem with that is, if we do something like that, he just shoots us. He just hits us. He just stabs us. Okay, that's his go signal. Right? So I have to be careful. Right? Okay, so let's see. I've got a little bit more to tag on top of this. So let's see. Oh, big point here. Fear doesn't just slow you down. Okay. It makes you readable. You're supposed to be reading him. He shouldn't have a clue about what you're up to. Okay. All right. So we'll take a little bit. Dive into this much deeper here. But again, my guys will be on me if I forget. Right. First, don't forget, after this thing is all over, don't do it now. After it's all over, don't forget to like, share, follow, or subscribe, depending on whatever platform you're on. Okay? All right. Got that out of the way. Fantastic. I'd appreciate it. So let's go deeper. All right? Because fear of getting hit isn't always about physical danger. Okay? More often, it's about the ego's need to win, right? Or the fear of looking weak, or the assumption that you're just too damn skilled to fail. Okay, I learned my cool moves, right? I have the advantage. Okay, so these emotional blind spots are what get people hurt. Okay, not just their attacker's strength, not just their attacker's cool moves or skills or whatever. Okay, so how exactly does fear of being hit relate to ego? How does it relate to fear of losing? And how does it relate to overconfidence? Okay. So let's look at the fear of being hit. Okay. This, I've got three of these, right? So the first one we'll take a look at is this ego-driven need to win. Okay. I just talked about the principles I did for Tanto Jutsu for my inner circle guys, and we focused at the intermediate level. At the advanced level, one of the lessons that people get is to drop the concept or the mindset of winning or losing. Okay? Well, shit, Sensei. I mean, somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. How are you defining winning? Okay. Because if I negotiate out of here, or I do something that makes him pick a different target, or decide that I'm not a good target for whatever reason, right? I'd call that a win. If I get to go home safe, right? Give my 5-year-old grandson a hug before he goes off to that's a win. Okay. But some people haven't gotten out of the caveman, I hit you with club, you hit me with club, whoever's head can take more club hits will win. This is difficult to get their head around. As a matter of fact, if you read the comments under some of my videos, what you will see are people commenting like just more of that backwards, inside out, ninja double speak BS. Some people are not ready for the lesson. Fantastic. Okay, they're going to keep doing what they do. Right? We have to remember, right? We can do it that way, but there's lots of reasons for not. Right? As in, like, I could win this one, conventional sense. I just brute force, drive this guy into the ground, but where's my energy now? And now 1 or 2 or 3 of his friends come rushing in. They're all fresh. I'm now depleted. Think your video games, right? Those energy points. Okay, except we don't get to like eat something and have a cool sound pop around us and everything go back up again. Doesn't work that way. Okay, but you guys know that, right? Okay, so here's the thing. From this perspective, the ego sees getting hit as a personal failure or a sign of weakness. Okay. Many students equate being untouchable with superiority. So when an attack comes close or actually lands, their self-image takes a hit even more damaging than the punch. Okay. And it could do multiple things, right? It could cause them to start to collapse, right? Or it can drive them to respond with more force to get their dignity back, to regain face, right? Rather than make the best tactical choice. Like, I made a mistake, okay? I'm not going to do that one again, right? So here's a little insight that I picked up from teachers. If your identity is tied to not being hit, your ego is already controlling the fight. What I mean by that is your ego is future pacing. It's predetermining action before the action itself. It's either guessing what he's going to do, or it's making assumptions, or it's already deciding which way it's going to go, but it has no idea where the hell the attack is coming from or whatever, right? So we're future pacing like we already know. Now, future pacing is something we use in personal development, and it's a really cool tool, right? Where if I have a goal of being, I've used this, right? 1st degree black belt, 5th degree black belt, 10th degree, whatever, right? I see myself in that role in the present tense, okay? And that drives action. It drives planning. It drives all kinds of things, okay? Future pacing in a fight is just as bad as past attachment. Both of those, right? Either thinking ahead without having any information, or my head's still stuck on the mistake I made or how he landed that thing or whatever, right? Means I'm not in the moment. I'm not paying attention to what's actually going on in front of me, okay? So this is not just a fight thing. This is a life thing, right? People do this shit all the time, okay? They waste the opportunity in the moment because thinking about having more success in the future, well, that's never going to happen. I mean, with my job, with my life, with my domineering wife, with my what? Well, that's now. Okay. If I think about that in the future, okay, what actions and thoughts and changes do I have to make to be that guy and not the guy who's chained by his testicles to his current condition? Right. Or I got my heart broken before. I'm never going to fall in love again. Really? You ever fall out of a chair? You ever going to sit down again? Okay. So people get stuck on these bullshit things. And so in life, right, you don't get stung as much or as fast. But if that same mindset is driving in a fight, that's fucked up, right? You really get messed up. Okay. So the ninja's approach is don't fight for ego, right? Use the attacker's ego against them. Okay. Winning, right, doesn't require retaliation. It requires strategy. Okay. So he hits me, so I got to hit him back, or okay, or I've got to hold on to my belt, or I've got to hold on to my reputation, or whatever. Okay. So egos need to win, right? We also have this fear of losing can also lead to a rushing the win. Right? Rushing the win. Okay. There was a powerhouse fighter. I don't know if he's still around or not because I don't watch these things on a regular basis. There's a guy named Chuck Liddell. You probably know him. Big guy, heavyweight, whatever, right? If you recall any of his fights, Chuck had this strategy that he'd come out first round and just go hard and heavy trying to blast somebody. Sometimes it worked, but when it didn't, his fights drug on, right? He took so many shots to the sides of the knees because for whatever reason, these guys don't know how to check a freaking lateral shot to the legs, right? But just it became harder and whatever. And did he win? Yeah, for the most part, right? But it becomes problematic, right? But here's the thing with rushing in, right? When a student or a self-defense practitioner, when they fear losing control, they often try to end the fight quickly. not a problem. That's not a bad goal. Okay. But when it's driven by fear or the fear of losing control, now it becomes a problem, because this desperation ends up manifesting in usually early and poorly timed attacks. Okay. Now, if I'm fighting somebody who fights pretty much the same way and I'm in a ring, we both throw things pretty much the same. There might be a little twist or whatever, but every time I throw something that does not land and rattle his cage and make him harder to remember his name and my name and what the hell just happened kind of thing, right? I have again shown him how I punch, the way it delivers, right? What my body does just before I send it out, those kind of things, okay? And so I'm just feeding this guy information for how to whoop my ass, okay? And so this desperation, right? Again, it also manifests in like overcommitting, okay? Or forcing a technique too soon, right? And you'll know this in the dojo when you're doing it, because if you do it too soon and your partner resists, which is a natural autonomic response to not being damaged, okay? If that resistance slows you down or stops you altogether, you went too early, okay? Because a properly applied technique that is also on time when he resists, that backfires on him and actually helps your technique. It should actually feel easier when he's resisting, when you're on time and in the right position, okay? If resistance causes you to have to do more, all that kind of, then you were way early, okay? And now he knows what you're doing. All of his attention is on saving that limb or whatever it is, okay? So we tend to use off-time techniques, off-time attacks, as a way to draw his attention to one thing so we can attack something else, okay? But ironically, this rush actually ends up creating the very openings the attacker needs to strike or reverse the situation or whatever, okay? So then this rushing in and not operating tactically and strategically, right? This fear of losing, right? When we're off time, shit, right? It creates these openings. We're off balance. We've got something open. We're in a position where we're too close, and he can, beat the shit out of us, or he can lock us down. It backfires in a big way. Okay, so the big insight here that I got from teachers is that fear of losing creates the very conditions that cause you to lose. Right? Fear of losing creates the very conditions that allow you to lose. Okay? Hatsumi Sensei used to talk about that all the time. If you're worried about losing, if you are afraid of not winning, losing control, whatever, okay? So that's what's going to cause you to lose. Okay, so the ninja, or we'll just call it the superior warrior, right? Instead, looks to extend the moment, okay, to stay present, to gather data, to gather information, and to exploit mistakes with precision, okay? Instead of rushing the moment, right, we're going to take that extra quarter second, half second, pay attention to the arc of the punch, not just, he moves, so we just jump straight to he's punching, right? And I'm going to do something. But, right? So by being willing to take the shot, we're actually, well, I'll talk about this coming up, right? We've got a whole tactical benefit section. Okay. So again, we want to extend the moment just a little bit. Okay. So that we gather more information, right? We can think and act more strategically and more tactically. Okay. So again, let's do number three. Number three here is this fear and overconfidence, okay, actually coexist, okay, as a cover-up. Okay. So fears and ego, when they're happening at the same time, right, where we got this whole bravado kind of thing going on, but we're really like shitting our pants on the inside kind of thing, right? They actually coexist. They actually they're happening at the same time, okay? But one's intellectual, that's the mask. to cover up for this emotional thing that's going on. Okay, it's coexist as a cover-up. Okay, so in Hatsumi Sensei's book, actually I've read a couple passages from during this last Kuden. The book is Ninpo Wisdom for Life, right? And one of the things he talks about in this book is being authentic. Okay, being authentic, right? And that's why we often do a lot of training with the emotions and stuff. Like, if this guy's causing me, to feel defensive and my weight's rocking toward the heels of my feet, that's a sign to do this or this, right? Because that gives me time, that gives me space, right? That gives me better strategic positioning, right? So I should not be just rushing in. But if I bought into a style that's the only option, the teacher's going to be yelling, "Don't back up, get him, get him." Yeah, well, except that my brain and my body's going, right? So, but if like the drive is to tag this guy first, but I'm in a system or I'm worried about certain considerations that so I'm not going to back up like this. I'm going to end up backing up like this. But now I'm projecting that it's all fucked up. Okay, so if we can operate from different emotional positions, not just physical stances, but emotional positions, right? We get more flexibility as well. Anyway, let's just keep going with this, okay? So here's the thing: when we're talking about this fear and overconfidence, whatnot, that just it doesn't mesh, right? We're not being authentic, right? We're actually split. Mentally, we imagine ourselves one way, but when shit hits the fan, something else happens on the inside. Okay, happens in the philosophical and spiritual realm as well, right? People imagine themselves as being the calm, enlightened sage, but when something goes wrong, fucking anger management problems just fly off the wall, right? So it's there's a disconnect. Cognitive dissonance is what it's called, right? And so I've always told people, whether I'm getting into a business relationship, I'm getting into a friendship, or I told my wife when we first met, okay? She started kind of hinting around about a deeper relationship, and we were still in like friend and hangout mode, and I said, I'm not there yet. I need to see you in two conditions. I need to see you afraid, and I need to see you angry. She's like, why would you scare me or make me angry? I said I wasn't gonna. I said I didn't say I was gonna do that. I need to see you in those conditions as we relate to each other, okay? Because I need to see how you operate when you're afraid or when you're angry. I need to see if you're a team player and we're gonna solve problems together, or if your default is to run away, leaving me to solve it, or throw me under the bus so you can tell everybody else it wasn't my fault. Okay? If I'm looking for a partner, not everybody will do. Okay, but often, I know in earlier relationships, I didn't look for those important things, but you live, you learn, right? So some hide, right, fear behind a mask of bravado. I already talked about that, right? So overconfidence in their skills becomes a psychological buffer for unresolved fear, right? Unresolved fear, right? So this leads to underestimating the opponent, assuming predictability, or believing that your skill is too good to fail. Okay? So the moment reality shatters that illusion, okay, could be a surprise punch, could be a trap, could be the failure to dominate or dominate quickly enough, right? Ego cracks, and panic can actually set in. Okay? So again, the big insight I got from teachers is that believing you're better than your opponent blinds you to what they're actually doing. Right? I was taught very early on, no matter how high the rank, right, approach every situation as though you were a white belt. How would I do that for? Well, divorce yourself from the idea of the belt color or the rank. See, that's already an ego defensive mechanism. Okay? White belts know they don't know anything. So they're going to pay attention and they're going to do what works. The higher somebody goes in rank, the more assumptions they make about their ability, about how they can control situations and all that kind of stuff, and how much they have to do it the right or official way. because some of these emotions might not be fear of him. It might be fear of somebody seeing me win this, but I didn't do it the ninja way. I didn't do it the Chicago way. Anyway, right? So I didn't do it the right way, okay? Including me watching. Can you imagine somebody feeling guilty after surviving a major attack, but beating the shit out of themselves because they know that they didn't do everything with perfect flow, and it happens all the time. Okay. So again, believing you're better than your opponent blinds you to what they're actually doing. Okay. So what we're talking about here is that the ninja trains to expect unpredictability. There is so much about this person and what they're going to throw at us. Even a friend, even somebody that you've known for a long time, when they snap, if they're coming at you in a way they've never come at you before, you have no idea what the hell they've been hiding inside, right? That they've just never shared with you or the world or whatever, okay? So we train for unpredictability, right? So our confidence is in our ability to adapt, not just our current skill level, okay? So these are really, really important pieces to pick up on, right? What do I have next here? So, oh yeah, there it is. Okay. So the fear of being hit is rarely just physical. Okay. It can also be emotional. Okay. It can also be psychological. Just make it psycho, right? And most of all, it's ego-based. And I don't mean like based, not that kind of based, right? It comes from ego's need to control or fear that it won't have control. It's what causes us to make all kinds of decisions in life. Hey, you want to go do this cool thing? The fear that we're going to look stupid, or they're going to have requests on us, or we're not going to do that new thing very well, or whatever. Well, of course, what does that cause us to do? I'm good, dude. Okay. Oh, why don't you want to come? It's not really my thing. No, I've tried. We might even lie a whole lot. I've tried it before. Just, I don't know, got bored with it, whatever. Okay. Things that we're pretty sure we're going to be good at. You just lean right into that. Okay. By all means. Okay. But growth comes from trying and figuring out things that we're not good at. Okay. But here's how people typically do martial arts or self-defense or whatever, based on their personality, based on the way they already think it should be done right. They find a school or an art or a system that does that, and they jump into it. Right? You know how I did it? I did it because, and Hatsumi Sensei had his own story, all kinds of people had stories. But if you know my backstory, right, I grew up in an environment that was extremely violent. Mentally, physically, emotionally, right? Had one parent unit almost killed the other parent unit when I was 8. Okay. So I had no idea what I was looking for. I just knew what violence looked like that I wanted to be able to handle. So by all means, my first part of my training career, I soaked up everything from everyone. Okay? Good things, there were bad things. How does that work? Whatever. Okay. As soon as I bumped into this and like it started proving itself, I'm all in. But Hatsumi Sensei has always known, and every teacher I've ever trained with in this art has always known, there were certain things I was looking for that had to do with producing results and surviving violence in the world. And the moment this art doesn't provide the right answers and it looks like something else will, but I'm not jumping around to something else because it's the new cool thing or it's filling in cracks that I think are inherent in this thing. Okay. So the idea here is that when you let go of the need to win or the fear of losing, right? I didn't get involved in self-defense and survival stuff to win fights or because I was afraid of losing fights. Okay? The win, if anything, was to stay upright on this side of the grass. Okay? The fear was in not being removed from the world at the hands of some fucking monster that thought that they just had the right to do whatever they wanted to anybody that they perceived to be smaller than them. Okay? That's why I became a cop. That's why I joined the military. There was just this drive for that. So winning and losing, I'm not keeping score. Right? It was about breathing or not breathing. Okay. So when we let go of, again, the need to win, the fear of losing, the illusion of superiority, right? We stop reacting. We start orchestrating. We start controlling the narrative. Okay. This illusion of superiority thing. You know, I've chosen the best martial art, which makes me better than those stupid people training in the wrong martial arts. Whatever. Right? I was just listening to an interview with a former CIA, Secret Service, something like that. This operative who was giving suggestions for navigating certain types of people, certain types of situations, certain types of things that make people feel like they can't move forward, all these kind of things, right? And she said, the first thing you need to remember is you're not special. None of us are special. Okay? If you think you're special, you know what? Everybody thinks they're special, which means we're not special, we're average. Okay? You want to be special? And you can't just say, well, I think I'm average. You don't do that because you want to feel special. Okay? But it's the rare person, it's that humbleness that I don't know, right? I don't know how this is going to pan out, right? I don't care how it pans out. What I care about is strategically paying attention to what he's doing and tactically maneuvering to diminish his strength, power, and advantage, right? So that I can walk away from here. It'd be great if we could both walk away. However, well, okay. So anyway, all right. For those of you who are like posting in the chat and whatnot, hi, how are you? Konbawa or konnichiwa, whatnot. I'll get back and answer you after this stuff is over, but just got to keep moving. Okay. So next thing I'll take a look at is the answer, right? So what's the answer to this fear-based operation? And that is this being willing to get hit. But what the hell does that mean? Okay. So again, before we discuss the answer, right, this is actually related to a core Bushido concept for those of you who got it, just, has this, warrior complex, which is fine. Okay. One of, if not the core Bushido concept is, or says that the warrior accepts death. Okay. Wait, Sensei, did you just like willing to get hit enough that like he's going to kill me? Stay with me. Okay. The Bushi didn't train with the hope of staying untouched, right? They trained with the knowledge that death was a real possibility. You're involved in fucking warfare, right? So by accepting that possibility, they became free. This is not about being suicidal. This is not about wanting to die, right? They accept the reality that comes along with the responsibility, right? A lot of people buy houses, so, I bought my own house, I can do whatever I want, right? Yeah. Okay, so you don't have a landlord that will fix anything that breaks. So you better get really, really good at fixing things you never thought that you were going to have to fix or know about, or be prepared to spend a shit ton of money on stuff that somebody else took care of when it came to renting. Okay, so it's the same thing. This is not about suicidal. This is not about wanting to die. This is accepting the reality of the situation, right? So not suicidal, but unafraid. Okay, and that clarity allows a warrior to seize the openings that others miss. Okay? So let's talk about that for a minute. All right. So this willingness to get hit, right? Again, this doesn't mean that we're necessarily going to take a hit. Although during Friday's class, I'm going to show you how to take a hit where he thinks he landed something, but it feels odd. No damage occurred to you. And he's absolutely, he stepped into a trap. Okay. Really cool. Right. So Again, it doesn't mean that we're actually going to take the hit. It means being emotionally and mentally willing to stay present in the line of fire without reacting too soon, without reacting prematurely. Okay? You're prepared to receive it, but you don't plan to do it. Confuse students all the time. We'll be doing something with the grab, right? And I'll move with just kamae. And I'll go, see, a pull occurred, but I didn't pull him. I didn't pull him, but a pull occurred, okay? A punch occurred. He ran into that, and a punch occurred, but I didn't punch him. I didn't, okay? So we need to understand that this is not, right? And the way we think about things determines how far we can go in the outcome, okay? So this reminds me of a story that I got from one of my earliest teachers in this art. And it took a couple of years for me to make the connection. Like I heard the story and part of it sounded cool, but part of it was like, wait, what? Okay. Now I could associate with part of it, right? Now I get it. Okay. But when I first started, right? And this first part here really mirrors what my teacher told me, right? He said, you know, when I first started, right? When he first started, right? Because he came from hard style martial arts, certain types of karate and those kind of things, and then transitioned over, right? So when we first started in martial arts, in self-defense, right? I believed, and I didn't have these words then, so I'm borrowing words from him because they kind of resonate now, right? But I believe that the techniques and the kamae or the stances or the skills or whatever, right, were like once I got them, right, they would make me invincible. But that invincibility was like armor. So think about armor, right? So anything this guy threw at me, okay, would just bounce off, would just ricochet away, or would just break in the process, right? That kind of thing, like hard metal armor or diamond. In Mikyo, we talk about diamond thunderbolt armor, which is just a symbolism for truth, right? So that it would just bounce off and whatnot, right? But later, what I found is that this protection isn't steel; it's more akin to marshmallow, right? So if you can imagine armor, right? Well, sensei, you're fat, so you look like this tape up marshmallow man. Whatever, right? But what I'm talking about here is this armor doesn't repel the attacker. It doesn't make things ricochet. His shot actually lands, and then he gets stuck. So imagine punching into marshmallow, and then even if you can pull away, shit's all over you. It slows you down. There's just this major problem, right? So this is the thing. I let him punch into this sense of stillness, this sense of calmness, right? This no fear kind of thing, but not an egoistic, machoistic, bravado kind of no fear. It's just, right? I trust in my kamae. I trust in my movement, right? I'm paying attention to what he's doing, so I'm adapting to him. I'm not playing the caveman kind of thing where I'm willing to take one to get one, take one to get one, which is the way you see a lot of fights, okay? So they're just hoping that their skull can put up with more than, right, his, okay? So this is different than being, right, where he can't damage you because you're too tough, you're too strong, you're too skilled, whatever. No. To everybody else, it looks like you're getting tagged as well, okay? But this is where he gets stuck. He gets stuck mentally, emotionally, physically, right? It's almost like you laid a bear trap and he just stepped into it, okay? Except in this case, it's like a pile of elephant shit, right? And now he's got it all over him. He can't get away from it, okay? So this is part of what we're going to be covering during this Friday, with the techniques and skills. We'll do some things that are kind of the entry into this, but there's some upper level techniques and skills where we're going to be riding off a shot, but instead of avoiding it, instead of changing angles, we're going to stay right in front of it, and it's going to hit. It's going to land. Okay. And this is where students have to learn the difference between being hit and being damaged. Okay. Because I want to affect his head, I want to affect his heart, right? And I want to trap his body. I'm actually trapping all three. Okay. So as soon as he makes physical contact, which is what he wants, okay, he's going to score a hit, but something's going to be off. Okay. And this plays into another principle within Ninjutsu, which is, especially in the upper, intermediate, advanced levels, the attacker gets what he wanted, just not the way he wanted it. He grabbed my wrist, he landed a shot, whatever. And so part of him is, yay, I got it. And part of him is that something feels off. Okay. So very, very different. Cool stuff. Hope you can make it, right? That being said, next question would be then, what tactical benefits do we get from following this strategy of being willing to get hit, willing to get cut, willing to get kicked, whatever, okay? So let's take a look at 3 of these, right, that I have laid out for you, and we'll just keep trucking along, okay? So tactical benefit number 1, no tells. I'm going to stand right there and wait for the shot to happen, okay? Because there's a certain wiring in my brain and body, I call it the human self-defense mechanism, that will not let you get hit, okay? If you're paying attention to something that's coming in, it will start to fire things because the body is wired to, 1, not hurt itself, and 2, not walk into danger, right? People have to suck up that fear to do shit like bungee jumping and jumping out of an airplane and whatnot. And if they don't, then they're already sociopathic. They have no like fear response. That's a dangerous motherfucker. Okay. So no tells equals no triggers for the attacker. Huh? Nothing for the attacker to read. Nothing for the attacker to use against you. Right? So when you don't flinch, you remain unreadable. The attacker loses their confidence in rhythm. Okay? You become, I don't know, we call it becoming the void, right? You become empty. In Sanskrit, it's, and even in Japanese as well, it converts over to shunyata, right? Their assumptions collapse mid-attack, okay? So this, if you got my book, Seishin Teki Kyoyo, right? That first aspect of training in the Togakure school, got 11 core elements that would be a part of the Seishin Teki. None of the what some people would call woo-woo or whatever, although some of these people might call woo-woo. So if we just start kind of rattling off some of these, this ties directly to what I was talking about in that book with Zanshin and Heijoshin, right? A still centered presence under pressure. That's a skill set, okay? This is not, I've heard people, just because they had it, they tell people, well, you either have it or you don't. Well, no, you can actually train it and develop it and hone it. Okay. So the idea here is if I'm calm under pressure, that's disconcerting to people, especially people who want to hurt you. Okay. So if I'm not flinching, if I'm not moving preemptively, right? If I'm not immediately going to kamae, this is an intermediate advanced level kind of thing where look, shizentai, okay? And we go to kamae while we're delivering the uke uch, the counter strike or a counter attack, and then it dissolves, right? So we'll move, do the hit, and then be off into something else or back into shizen. So he never sees how we deliver the attack. He never sees positioning, opening, how we move into it, how we move out of it, those kind of things. We attack at a moment that it catches them off guard, but because the brain has a lag time behind it, right? We human beings live about a quarter of a second in the past because of processing time. From the time something comes into one of our sensory receptors, gets processed and identified, and then the brain can act on it. There's about a 250 milliseconds is a quarter of a second cognitive gap that if you can operate inside that gap, that's ninja invisibility. Mitsubishi, blinding powders, smoke, all that kind of stuff. was shit they came up with during major times of like civil unrest when battles were happening all the time, and they needed to produce warriors faster than you could develop these abilities based on the need for time and training. So that's where they invented blinding powder and all this other shit to create an invisibility thing. But it was a James Bond gadget. It wasn't the actual ability, right, to operate in these cognitive gaps. Okay, so next one we'll talk about here, this tactical benefit number 2 is trapping with timing. Okay, so trapping with timing. But sensei, you trap with your arms. And basic students do that. Okay? So one of the things we talked about with being willing to hit, and it was on the slide and all that. How do we transform, or how do we make the willingness to get hit actually become a trap using his own attack? Okay, so the longer we wait, right? This allows for like a last second evasion, okay, or an interceptive counter, right? But this takes advantage then, right? The attacker's overcommitment creates imbalance or overextension because we're right there, right? He's committed to that shot and he starts to lock down to brace, right? The body locks down to make the shot more powerful, to make sure the system doesn't fold, break, collapse, or whatever. So there's that last second, and we can just use that, right? The analogy I use for this isn't really about fighting, but if you ever have you ever been helping a friend move or something like that, or helping somebody do something and they want you to pick up, like, can you grab that bag over there? Can you grab that box or whatever? And you see some shit in it, and you make this assumption that based on size or width or whatever, it's fucking heavy, right? And you pick it up and you realize it's just nothing but loaves of bread, or you pick it up. And so you pick it up to do work. And next thing you know, freaking box and bag is up in the air, shit's flying all over the place and whatnot, because you overdid it. You overcommitted, right? It's that kind of idea. Okay. So in what this gives you is you gain the opportunity to control or finish the encounter, right, with minimal effort. Okay? And that's the idea. Okay. So the point here is this is not tough guy strategy. It's, I have room on here for something. Fade. Okay. Drift, right? Okay? Look like there's something there. It is there. And then, right? Fade, flow, right? And trap. I think most of you probably know a technique where somebody throws or punches or tries to grab you or whatever. You shift out of the way and catch them in an armbar, and you just kind of send them on their way, or apply pressure and put them down, right? So we've got one forearm at their wrist and one forearm just behind the elbow, and we're catching this thing. In some martial arts, they get out of the way and it's a snap or whatever, okay? So most students, when they learn that technique, as the punch is coming in, they try to race it to get it as quickly as possible, and then they're fighting to make it happen, but their partner is, they don't want their arm getting locked, right? But the reality is that the longer I wait, could I get hit? Yeah, of course. Okay. A big lesson here, the mentality behind all of this is I'm in a freaking fight. I'm in an attack. Of course I'm going to get punched or kicked or stabbed or cut or whatever. Okay. My job is not to have those things happen. My job is to not have those things happen to the degree where the TV gets turned off. Okay. So yeah, I could get hit. However, if I'm moving with it, it's not going to be this. It's not going to be the same thing. So when he comes in here with this thing, if I wait to the last second and I shift, it's kind of like in those movies where somebody's about to bash in a door, and just before they hit it, usually a comedy movie, just before they hit it, somebody opens a door and they fall on their face. It's that kind of tricky timing, right? So it's about to hit me, and I shift, and then because he was bracing to use my body to, right, for that extra momentum. And so when he falls in here, I just have to I don't have to chase it. I don't have to wrestle with it. It's right there. And he's already, because he was overextending, already straightened his arm out for me instead of me trying to catch it like this and then straighten it out. Okay. Fade, flow, trap. Okay. So let's do one more. So tactical benefit number 3 is you disengage from the ego-driven game. Okay. So again, conventional fighters tend to stay in range and trade blows. And I know they move out of range or whatever, but then they, right? Because there's this imperative need. I'm going to beat the shit out of him. I'm going to teach him a lesson. I have to win this fight. I can't lose. I can't look bad, right? Trying to win the girl. Can't make her think that I'm a wuss, whatever, okay? Or I can't have my friends over here, right? Woos, 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 woos. I can't have that shit going. It's not about that, right? So they tend to stay in range, or because there's rules in the ring that if you don't engage within a certain amount of time, you get penalty points. You get too many of those, you get disqualified, okay? Because people bought tickets to watch a good show. We're talking about survival and self-defense, not satisfying somebody's need to see violence, okay? So again, conventional fighters tend to stay in range and trade blows. One of my students coined this phrase a bunch of years ago, so we just held on to it, right? They're playing this game of willing to take one to get one, okay? And again, the mindset is if I get hit, but land my hit first or harder or whatever, and I do that often enough, I win. Okay? The ninja's mindset, though, is if I can break your rhythm, if I can confuse your perceptions or trap you in your own movement, I never need to get hit at all. Okay? And sometimes I don't even have to hit. Okay? So the big thing here is that emotional clarity beats emotional reactivity. Okay? Emotional clarity beats emotional reactivity. Again, not just a martial arts thing, also a life thing. Okay? If somebody's calling me names or they've set me up for a fall or who knows, they've said something, done something or whatever, okay? If I'm operating from emotional, let's do emotional reactivity, right? I'm going to resent them. I'm going to avoid them. I'm going to feel the need to get them back, whatever, okay? If I'm operating from a position of emotional clarity, I consider the source. Is it somebody that I respect and should pay attention to because maybe they see something that I don't, and it's something I should probably correct to be able to produce better results? That's one thing. But if it's some jackwagon, like these fucking trolls that post things on the videos and stuff, not constructive. They think they're all that, but they've got no videos on their own YouTube channels or whatever to show that they actually know what the hell they're talking about or whatever. If they think that I'm like offended when they say, call me Santa, call me fat, old, that technique doesn't work, you know what the hell you're talking about, I'll kick your ass or whatever. Okay. The clarity is, I understand the perspective they're coming from. Okay. It's just very childish. Okay. If my grandson called me a name, right, I might just look at him and go, not cool, right? Not respectful. Okay. And he's going to apologize. I'm not going to jump around. I'm not going to throw things back and forth. He calls me a name. I call him a name, or I smack the shit out. No. Okay? I understand. It's a 5-year-old. Okay? I don't care what their biological age is. A 5-year-old acts like a 5-year-old. Okay? So anyway, some people grow up, but not out. Okay? Let's see. Okay, so some of these things I was going to talk about relating to Ninja Hachimon. We don't have time for that. So the thinking prompt or kind of, I don't know, homework or activity or whatever I'm going to give you for the week is, have you ever caught yourself flinching or reacting too early in training or in sparring? Right? How did that affect the outcome? Did it prolong things? Did it cause him to start to use that against you to get you to flinch? How'd that work out? Okay. Now, could have worked out in your favor if the person that you were dealing with didn't know what they were looking at, didn't catch it, were so caught up in their own thing. That's usually what happens in a lot of like I'm going to call them conventional fights instead of lower level fights, where each combatant is focused on so much on what they want to do that they're just not paying attention as much as they should be to what the other guys do. Okay. All right. So as a kind of a closing thought here for you, the secret to winning, and this is a Hatsumi Sensei quote, right? The secret to winning is to get the opponent to defeat himself. Okay, so it's a close. I missed something here. What did I not write in here? Number 3 was disengage from ego-driven. Okay, so disengage from ego-driven action. Okay, those who are taking screenshots and whatnot, if you can read my freaking writing. My mom used to always say that I should be a doctor based on my handwriting. I'm like, Mom, I have no idea what my handwriting having to do or has anything to do with saving other people's lives, but okay. I know what she was referring to, like handwritten doctor's prescriptions and whatnot. Yeah. So anyway, my second wife was actually a pharmacist. I asked her one time, like, how do you make sense out of these prescriptions that come in? Like, I don't have no idea what he wrote. And I bring it in and I hand it over. And she goes, ancient Chinese pharmacist secrets. I call the doctor's office and ask him what the hell he wrote. Fair enough. Okay. Information gathering. All right. So as we wrap this up, let's complete this last part here. Right. So control begins with you. Okay? Control begins with you. Control yourself. And control of the attacker begins with not fearing what he might do. Not fearing what he might do. Okay. It's an older movie for some of you guys. You might know what I'm talking about. For some, you know how long ago it was made. So this old Kevin Costner movie. Sean Connery was in it as well. It was called The Untouchables. It was a retelling of this story of this federal agent way back in Prohibition days, Elliot Ness. Right, same name as an old black and white TV series that was out with this thing. And Elliot Ness was actually a real guy, whatever. So, but anyway, they're at the Canadian border, and they're waiting for alcohol smugglers to bring stuff across. And so, Sean Connery's character he was a local cop who mentored this federal cop, and Irish guy, or I think Irish Scottish, something like that, and Elliot Ness is just like walking around this house that they're in near the border. He's looking out the back door. He's looking at the front door. He's looking out windows. And Sean Connery's character goes, "What the hell are you doing?" He goes, "Well, I'm looking." "For what?" "What should I be looking for?" "Well, what should I be doing?" "Just watch." "For what?" "Look, don't look for something to happen. Don't wait for something to happen. Don't want something to happen. Watch and see what does happen. Then you'll know what to do." Okay? It's very different. Okay? All right. So once again, there's that URL down there, right? So hopefully you make it for the Friday virtual training. So my Nimpo Masterclass students, my Inner Circle, my Shinobi Kai, my Black Belts, some are virtual, some are actually here in the dojo, 6 p.m. Eastern on Fridays, right? We will be working on these concepts during that class. And so if you want to go deeper, right, into this tactic, into this strategic approach, and at the same time check out what type of training goes on in these virtual classes, right? My Nimpo Master class is folks that just do those classes. They don't do like ranking and all that. I've got other programs for that. But if you want to do that kind of thing, kind of check out how things work, or just dive into the physical side of some examples about what this would look like, then you can go there, get yourself signed up. There are only 20 spots. Okay, so several, and last time I checked before I signed on, several are already gone. So get signed in. The system will shut down and stop taking registrations at I think 4:30 on Friday afternoon because of our class schedule. So 90 minutes before the class actually starts, you can't even sign up. Okay, or we hit our 20 and the system locks out. Okay. So hopefully you'll make it. Hopefully you'll dive in a little bit deeper. And if not, hopefully I gave you enough to add to your own training and keep you moving forward. Okay. So with that being said, again, I'm going to thank you for being here. Hopefully this served you well, and post questions, comments or whatever, as long as they're respectful, right? I ignore and delete all the ones that are asshole-ish. So, yeah, I'll get to them as quickly as I can and help you out. So if you're students, you have your heads up on what we're doing on Friday. Okay. That's it. I will talk to everybody again next time.